It's been my recent privilege to be able to examine Heljan's latest O2s, Gresley Tango 280s. Now, these are the O22, which is the nearer one, and the O22 rebuild, you might say, O24, with a B1 boiler and a standard LNER side window cab. Here's the LNER build O22 with lower cab, lower dome and lower chimney. This was a development from the original LNER 021, which was built to the Great Northern Railway higher loading gauge. So this is the BR version of the 022, complete with Great Northern tender. These were highly successful locomotives, very powerful, very sweet running, and loved by their crews. 3-cylinder engine, so very good riding. The original 021s were later lowered, and they received a side window cab at the same time. But the 022s retained their Great Northern cab and Great Northern tender until some of them were rebuilt into 024s, and we'll see that later. And later on, after the K3s were starting to be withdrawn, some of the 022s received Group Standard 4,200 gallon tenders. But here we have, well, early British Railways days. Now I can't help thinking that the lettering on the tender is a little bit big, but it's very, very well applied. Now here, the 022 is hauling a full-length mineral tray, and I mean full-length. This is the type of duty for which they were superbly suited, and Heljan have captured the appearance and also the tractive effort of the originals in scale, of course. The original Heljan 02s came out some years ago, and I assisted the company in the development of those, and there were certain issues, should we say. They were the 023s and the rebuilt 023s into 024s. Now these issues have definitely been resolved with these latest models. Issues such as plastic handrail pillars, who thought that was a good idea? They're now replaced with metal, and the handrails are blackened. The tender drawbar is much improved. The valve gear is much improved. It's nowhere near as fragile. Not only that, they're actually painted. The previous manifestations were just plastic, black plastic. And guess what it looked like? Black plastic. Here we have a proper painted model. The boiler is packed with weight. Doesn't it make a lovely sight? It's a bit clean for an 022, but I think it's a super model. And here we have the 024. And the way to tell the difference is that the ejector, the vacuum ejector pipe, is above the handrail. And as with the 021 and 022 rebuilds into 024, they're the ones with the Thomson B1 boiler, they received a side window cab but retained their Great Northern tenders. Now these locomotives, all the 02s of every derivative, were vacuum fitted, so they could pull vacuum fitted trains. Many of the LNER 280s, particularly those inherited from the Great Central, were not vacuum fitted, which meant that they could only pull unbraked trains, but not here in the case of this 024. So this is a fully fitted express goods. Now express is a relative term. A loco like this 280 with small driving wheels wouldn't be able to, say, take the train at the same speed as a Pacific or a V2, but they were more than capable of handling this kind of traffic at a slightly lower speed. And again, as with the mineral train, this is full length. And many of these wagons are built from kits, some of them metal, so they're no lightweights. All these Heljan 280s are incredibly powerful. They really are. They're the equal of just about every kit-built locomotive equivalent that I've built, every 280. They're heavy, the motor's powerful, they're robust, and they're really, really sweet runners, as I hope you can see. The tender is a little bit fragile, I mean the tender handrail, so there's a little note in the packaging, be careful how you take them out. You can't have it both ways. These tenders are to scale with etched brass coal rails, so if they're picked up clumsily, then don't. Just be careful. What they really need, and I'm a sort of zealot here in a way, is weathering. I saw many of these types at Retford and Doncaster and Sheffield, and unless they were just taken out of Doncaster Works, then they were usually grubby. So, this video is on World of Railways, of course, which is linked to BRM, so watch out after my review of these has been published in BRM for further articles where I take these models, these wonderful models, a step further and weather them. And here it is, a bit too clean, but a lovely model nonetheless. And off she goes into the fiddle yard. A bit too clean, definitely, but beautifully finished. I'm not critical of the finish, they just look more natural if they're weathered. So, as I've intimated, watch out for future issues of BRM where I take both these models a stage further. Not because they're wrong, I'm just going to make them, in my opinion, more realistic by adding muck, weathering dirt, streaks, limescale, coal dust. These were dirty steam locomotives. As with most models these days, provision, if it's a tender engine, provision for DCC is in the tender. Both of these are just plain analog, but there's a speaker fitted as standard inside the tender. You don't have to fit a speaker for DCC. It's already there. Although the coal load is far better represented than in the earlier 023 and 024 manifestations, I will be adding real coal as part of the modifications. What more can I say? Much improved. The price isn't much higher than when they first came out, and you get far better models. I thoroughly recommend them. There will, in time, be a Great Northern example, the original 021, with the high chimney, high dome and high cab roof, so look out for that. Thank you.